Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denice Show. Today, I want to talk about delegitimizing the state of Israel and the United States of America. When I look at what Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar have done with the spectacle they've made of themselves with respect to not going to Israel, I'd like to point out a few facts. Number one, the day after Omar and Tlaib and others that support their radical agenda here in the United States Congress, the day after they called for the United States Congress to pass a statement in support of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions agenda against the state of Israel to economically ruin that country, and therefore Israel then not being able to defend itself against Muslim Arab armies, because that's what surrounds Israel. And the Palestinians, the Muslim Arabs, they're people that have come from Muslim Arab countries. There's no ethnicity called Palestinian. There are Arabs and there are Egyptians, but there's no ethnicity that's Palestinian. There's no race that's Palestinian. There's no ideology that's Palestinian. There are Arabs, Jews, and Egyptians living in the Middle East. And Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, the day after, proposed this trip that would be sponsored for the most part by MIFTA, an organization that supports suicide bombers, knowing, and this is what I just found out in a report I read, Tlaib and Omar absolutely knew about the piece of legislation that was passed in Israel's Knesset, or what we call Congress, what Europeans call their parliament. In Israel's Knesset, statutory law was already in place in 2017. It's 2019. And Tlaib and Omar knew about that law. They knew that there would be people within the Israeli government that would say to the leadership of Israel, we have a law that bars people from supporting the boycott and divestment and sanctions against our country to help destroy our country. The law's already been in place 2 years ago. And these two women in the United States Congress knew about it. So the spectacle that they've made of themselves, the pain, the hurt, and the effort to mainstream delegitimizing the state of Israel and the United States, I believe, is thoroughly and completely at play. I want to share with you something that Mark Levin wrote a book. It's called, what's it called? It's called The Unfreedom of the Press. I haven't read it yet. I've read a review of it. And in reading a review of The Unfreedom of the Press by Mark Levin, this reviewer says that basically what the book does is it demonstrates how the media in the United States have used their power not to provide news, but to shape a political agenda. And the political agenda that the media is trying to shape today is one of liberal progressivism. And liberal progressives and the liberal progressive ideology is absolutely anti-Israel. It's also anti-US. It's also against the United States of America. And I want to call your attention to something that I talked about last week. And that was the Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum. I talked about this last week. Go listen to that show. It was a great show talking about how the state of California in 2016 had passed a law where all the high schools in the state of California had to teach ethnic studies. And what did they leave out of the ethnic studies? Anything and everything that had to do with Jewish, except those things that were absolutely hostile against the Jewish people. I mean, there was tremendous anti-Semitism in what I read in this so-called California Ethnic Studies model curriculum, which, by the way, is why it finally got scrapped. I believe it was last Thursday, it got scrapped. But the absolute manifest of hostility demonstrated in this state of California curriculum. And I'll tell you something else that was left out of it is anything that has to do with Christian Europeans, because remember the pilgrims that came over from England? Well, first they were from England and they went to Denmark, Holland. They then came over to the United States. They were called pilgrims. And the pilgrims settled in what would eventually become the state of Virginia at Plymouth Rock. They landed at what we know as Plymouth Rock. The rock's still there. You can visit it. Anyway, they landed at Plymouth Rock. They came here for the sole purpose of freedom of religion. And tied to that concept of freedom of religion is freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And so there's hostility in what was the California Ethnic Studies model curriculum about white people, people from Europe, which most of us are from. My people were from Eastern Europe, Estonia, Latvia, and Western Europe on my mother's side, Germany, before World War I. So, a lot of people came over here from Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe. Many Jews came over from those countries, and Russia. I think of Irving Berlin, who wrote God Bless America, and Emma Lazarus. These were Jewish people that came over because of the terrific persecution against Jewish people. And they came here, and Emma Lazarus wrote a poem which is on the Statue of Liberty. And we sing God Bless America all the time. That was a prayer by a Jewish man by the name of Irving Berlin, thanking God, asking God, praying to God for God to bless America, the land that he loved. Stand beside her and guide her through the night, through the turmoil, through the problems that lay ahead, through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America. This is a Jewish man, an immigrant to the country. And here we have in the state of California, thank God enough people stood up, and I talked about this on the show, and I hope many of you called Sacramento and the California State Judiciary Committee. Finally, it was scrapped, but it absolutely had declarations of hostility towards the Jewish people and left out the people who founded this country, who were European people. And yes, they were white people, European white people that had the courage, a strength of character, the determination to stand against England, also white, that wanted to impose its will, its lack of religious freedom, its lack of freedom of the press and speech, and horrifically high taxes. It took a lot of courage on behalf of our founding fathers from Europe to stand against Great Britain. Great Britain, huge empire that had a navy we didn't have. We didn't have a navy in 1775 when the war began for independence. Did you know that? We didn't have a navy. But Great Britain did. But somehow, 8 years later, the war officially ended in 1783. And guess who won? Right, we did. So it's incredible that now we have people that are embracing people from the Middle East, Muslim Arabs, who are identifying as quote-unquote Palestinians because the British mandatory power after World War I decided to call a piece of real estate Palestine. They're trying to delegitimize the country, and the liberal progressive agenda is all about that. Delegitimizing people that are Caucasian, people that are Jewish, people that are Christian. And I thought it was interesting. I saw an article about a predominantly upscale neighborhood in Minneapolis. The neighborhood is in an area called Lake Calhoun. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. And a mob of 30 Somali Muslim men. Elan Omar is Somali. She's representing a district in Minnesota. And a mob of 30 Somali Muslim men congregated in a large group and went through this neighborhood and threatened to rape every white woman in this upscale neighborhood because they were considered to be non-believers. And if they were a non-believer in Islam, they deserved to be raped and possibly killed. Mr. Producer, that was the second clip I gave you so the second one dealing from 47 seconds to 2:21. Would you play that? So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen carefully to this clip. There's really two in effect that my producer is going to play. I'm putting them out of order. That's why I had to talk to him for just a moment. One of the women that you're going to hear, this Muslim Arab, advocates that 15-year-old girls be forced into marriage. And of course, their father has the authority to do that, which if I'm not mistaken, I don't know about the law in Minneapolis. I didn't think to check it at the time. But culturally, it's not considered appropriate to marry a girl off at 15 years of age because getting pregnant at that stage of the game might not be a particularly healthy or good idea. But the point is they're too young and immature to start a family and settle down. So she's advocating this, and then she says it's okay in the United States for Muslims to kill anybody who insults the Prophet Muhammad. I want you to check this out. Now, this is going to be in the second clip you hear. But the first part of the clip talks about the freedoms in America, but violence is okay. Violence is okay. They like the freedom in the United States, but violence against non-Muslims is okay. And then the second clip you're going to hear is despite the tremendous amount of freedom, they still want to go to Somalia. Why do they want to go to Somalia, a third world country, where there isn't the freedom and the prosperity? Why is that? That's interesting. It's because it's a Muslim country. Play both those clips, please.
Feel more comfortable living under American law, or do you feel more comfortable living under Sharia law?
Sharia law.
I'm a Muslim. I prefer Sharia law.
Sharia law, yes.
You prefer Sharia law over American law?
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
And do you find most of your friends feel the same way?
Yeah, of course. If you're Muslim, yeah.
He can make his daughter marry somebody.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, he can. He has the authority,
The authority to do that.
Yeah, to do that. Yeah.
So here, how young do you think it's okay?
Yeah, 15.
How do you feel when this whole controversy with the Prophet Muhammad and people depicting the Prophet in cartoons, how does the whole thing make you feel?
That really pisses me off, you know what I mean? Because they know it's a button to push.
That makes me angry, and it's just that everyone gets like the big freedom, and then they don't see that the freedom that they're getting is causing a problem. It's causing hatred for other people.
Would it be better if we made it illegal in America to make fun of the Prophet Muhammad?
Definitely, yeah.
Do you think we should make a law that makes it illegal to
That would be better, yeah. That would be better to stop, aggression.
I was so upset and I was so mad. They insulted our religion, they insulted our prophet, and we couldn't take it.
And they shouldn't be allowed to do that?
Oh my God, big time, yes.
Do you understand the motivation behind the people then who strike out violently against people who depict the Prophet Muhammad?
Yeah, I understand totally where they're coming from, yeah.
Do you understand why they feel motivated to do that?
Yes, because when you every day face frustration and every day you have you're mad or somebody say that or you feel hate yourself. You can do anything you want. If you commit suicide, you don't care because your heart is telling you, I don't want to live no more, because you couldn't take that much hate, or you kill someone.
In a way, they kind of deserved it.
Yeah, no, every action has a consequence.
Is it right to kill somebody who insults Muhammad?
Yeah, because she is just, she hate the religion, I understand. But she shouldn't pick up the prophet, you know?
So you understand why people would want to attack her?
Yeah.
If you had a choice, would you rather live here or would you rather live in the Muslim country?
I'd rather live in a Muslim country with my people.
Would you prefer to live in America or prefer to live in Somalia?
For me, I think it's Somalia.
Would you rather live in America or live in Somalia?
I would rather live in Somalia.
I'm not Americanized. I just speak fluent, and I'm, you know what I mean, I'm articulate, and I can articulate what I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? That's about it. But other than that, I mean, as far as my culture and my preferences and everything, it's still Somali, you know what I mean?
Even though here you have all the freedom and stuff like that?
And even though I have all the freedom,
Do you think life might be better in
I
Somalia?
hope you caught that. It's okay to kill people in America if they insult the prophet. What does that mean, insult the prophet? Insulting the prophet means things like, well, you're not a Muslim, and you think that in effect he was wrong, that he wasn't somebody special who came down from heaven. You know, he was a sheep herder in the deserts of Arabia and was an epileptic who had seizures, and through those seizures said he had visions that he was to start this new religion. And he wrote the Quran. And the Quran, if you read the Quran, literally takes bits and pieces from the Torah, or the Old Testament, and the New Testament. And to me, the way it reads, it's as though somebody was trying to basically just rewrite the Bible from a perspective that they wanted to embrace. I mean, it's like they sat down in the deserts of Arabia and said, okay, we're going to take, again, this is the 7th century, so there was the Bible, and there were tribes, Jewish tribes and Christian tribes in the Arabian Peninsula at the time. And these Jewish tribes and these Christian tribes had their oral traditions of the scripture. And there was scripture. There was the written text. And this person, an Arab person, decided that he would write his own book. It's called the Quran. And in the Quran, it's basically a rewrite, kind of a crude rewrite of what we call the Bible, or what Jews call the Bible, or their Torah. And when I think about the Democrats today, we know that Steny Hoyer, Democrat from Maryland, came out yesterday, or the night before, and said, as a leader of the Democrats in the House, that they're thinking about, again, getting revenge on Israel because Israel upheld the rule of law and it followed its own statute by barring these BDS supporters who the day before had worked on getting BDS legislation passed in the United States Congress. That's incredible that we have Democrats that are so trying to mainstream, delegitimize, make Israel look like it's the bad guy, that they would call for a resolution that would express their displeasure in Israel's ambassador to the U.S., Ron Dermer. Basically, the resolution was to express no confidence. It was a no confidence thought that they would pass this in the House, this no confidence, saying that, in other words, if they have no confidence in Israel's ambassador to the United States, from their perspective, that would mean there would be no reason to deal with him or hear anything that he has to say about his government and the state of Israel. And with an American citizen, David Friedman, who is the United States ambassador to Israel, they want the Inspector General of the United States to use taxpayer dollars to investigate David Friedman because David Friedman said this. This is what David Friedman said in a public letter on August 15th. Friedman wrote that the U.S. supports and respects Israel's decision to bar the two, adding, "This trip, pure and simple, is nothing more than an effort to fuel the BDS engine that Congresswomen Tlaib and Omar so vigorously support." Now, Ambassador Friedman works at the pleasure of the President of the United States of America. That's who Ambassador Friedman reports to. He's within the Secretary of State. Now maybe his immediate boss might be Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State. I'm not sure about that. But bottom line, ultimately, his boss is the President of the United States, and there might be, just between the President and Ambassador Friedman, again, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, I'm not sure. But the point is that Mike Pompeo, as Secretary of State, he's going to take his marching orders from the President, right? And so Ambassador Friedman is restating, in effect, what the President has said, is that these two women are just wanting to basically fuel the BDS movement, bring more attention to it, try to garner more support in Israel by Muslims, so that then their relatives living here in the United States, their husbands and wives and brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles and whatever, can put more pressure to delegitimize the state of Israel and the United States. Because by delegitimizing the state of Israel and saying, Israel, you can't uphold the rule of law in your country. It doesn't matter to us, these radical BDS activists, that you have a law that says no BDS activists can come into your country. No, they're trying to break down the rule of law in the United States and say, we have no borders in the United States. Not only is it okay for anybody and everybody to walk across the border from Canada and the United States and from Mexico into the United States, we don't need to know who they are. I just read a report that said the majority of people coming into the country from Mexico right now aren't even Mexican. They're from 62 other countries, many of them Muslim countries. Really? That's interesting, because that means they're going to push for more anti-Semitism. If you're a Muslim Arab, or you're a Muslim from Indonesia, another ethnic group, or Malaysia, another ethnic group, if you're Muslim, you're 9 times out of 10 going to be anti-Semitic. 9 times out of 10, you're going to just hate Jews because that's how you were raised. That's just a fact. That's just reality. And everybody knows it who knows anything about the real world. I mean, I went to school when I was in undergraduate and graduate school. I don't think I ever met a Muslim who didn't hate Jews. Why do you hate Jews? Well, yeah, I don't even think they know. They just do. It's just how they were raised. It's part of their DNA. Well, why? I had a woman from Iran who was a student in one of my classes. And she was talking to me one day, and she asked me, she says, you seem to be supportive of Israel. And I said, I am. It's the only democracy in the Middle East, and we share the same Bible, the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And, I believe in the 10 Commandments. In the Torah it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. It also says that in the New Testament. We've got the same fundamental values that we like to live our lives by. And she says, I don't even know why I haven't liked the Jewish. She said that to me. I really don't know why. It's talked about in Iran. People are told to hate Jewish people, and they hate Jewish people, and we celebrate and call for the destruction of the state of Israel in America. But she says, I don't really know why. And the day she said that to me, I thought, that makes total sense to me, because I've gone to school with, I've been on stage and debated with. And there's such a hatred. And I think, where does that come from? I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from the Quran. Because in the Quran, that's what Islam teaches. Which takes me to the next part of our discussion today, and I've got to wrap things up, I know, but is Islamophobia. You know, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar like to say that all of us all of us white people, Caucasians, and others here in America, especially Republicans, we're Islamophobic. What does that mean? Well, you know, in the Latin and in the Greek, what does phobic mean? It means fear of. If you study Latin and Greek, which I did, phobia, 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 or phobic means fear. Fear of Islam. And I thought about those 30 Muslim men from Somalia in a neighborhood in Lake Calhoun in Minnesota, Minneapolis, going around this high-end neighborhood, chanting outside the doors and windows of people in their home at night, saying that they were coming after the women inside to rape them. Wow. In Dearborn, Michigan, during President George W. Bush and other Republican presidents, Muslim Arabs marched down the street in protest against our war against Al-Qaeda after 9/11. Why? You know, we say Al-Qaeda is a terrorist group. They say, no, Al-Qaeda is a resistance movement. They're freedom fighters. They're fighting for Islam. They're fighting for the Islamic Caliphate. They want a caliphate, just like the Turks had from the 1500s until the end of World War I. The Turks. It's called the Ottoman Empire. Remember your history books? The Ottoman Empire, 1500s to end of World War I. They want a caliphate. They're freedom fighters. They're part of the resistance. This is exactly what Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar say. The Muslim Arabs or Arab Christians that are Palestinians that support the destruction of Israel. And oh yeah, there's a lot of anti-Semitism in churches that are controlled by Palestinians in the Middle East. That's what they say. Total destruction of Israel. And they hate Americans that support Israel. And some of them are our Christian brothers and sisters. I was reading a report called The Extinction of Christians in the Middle East. Here's the title. It was published by the Gatestone Institute, a think tank. Gatestone Institute, check it out. It came out 2 days ago on August 18th. And the Syriac Orthodox Archbishop, okay? An Orthodox Archbishop from Mosul. Mosul in Iraq is the third largest city in Iraq. And this was, and he wrote in the National Catholic Register, so maybe there's Catholics out there that read the National Catholic Register. But this Orthodox Archbishop said that basically there were tens of thousands, 15,000 Christians lived in Mosul. 15,000 Christians lived in Mosul. Now that's the third largest city in Iraq that had 15,000. And he says, maybe there's 40. Maybe there's 40. Now that ISIS has been destroyed in Mosul, he says about 40 Christians came back. And basically what this talks about is Christian genocide in the Middle East. Under organizations that Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar support. Al-Qaeda. Ilhan Omar, I played the clip on this very show where she was being interviewed. And she felt that Al-Qaeda, resistance, freedom fighters were the same as the United States Army and the U.S. government. Moral equivalency between the two. We don't run around. It's not our policy to run around and kill innocent civilians. Yes, innocent civilians are called collateral damage because, you know, that's what happens when you are in a war. We accidentally kill our own in a war. It's called friendly fire, right? So during time of war, even our own soldiers, military people, get killed in training exercises and during the heat of a battle, accidentally, just like civilians get killed. But the point is we don't make a point to go out and find where Christians and Jews are living or where Muslims are living and drag them out of their homes and kill them at point blank range. That's not something that we do as a nation. Soldiers that do that, wind up in the stockades, right? Because that's not our policy. We don't randomly and indiscriminately just go around looking for civilians that, we can kill and slit their throats. That's just not something that our military does. We don't look for civilians to burn them alive, slit their throats, put them on crosses, cut off their heads. And in this account that was written by this Orthodox archbishop from Mosul, Iraq, he says in one of the cemeteries, they found a Christian that was buried there. They literally took the dead body out of the grave and beheaded him. I mean, the guy is dead. In a casket, in the ground. They unearthed him because it was a Christian that was in this cemetery, took the dead body out and decapitated the body. Why? Because that was a Christian that was buried in that cemetery. Islamophobia. Tlaib and Omar are trying to mainstream an ideology that says if anyone is critical of Islam or Islam's ideology as identified in the Quran, as written in the Quran and the Hadith, then you're Islamophobic, and that means you're a racist. And you need to tell those people, you can't let it happen. You can't allow the left. You cannot allow Democrats. You cannot allow liberal progressives to tell the American people how to think or what deserves a conversation, a critical conversation about. We've had critical conversations about communism, Nazism, socialism. We can certainly have a critical conversation about Islamism and how people like Tlaib and Omar, who have now captured the soul of the Democratic Party, and we now have Democrats in leadership positions across the country telling us that we have to tell a sovereign state what they can and cannot do and punish them if they don't do what we tell them to do, so they cannot even uphold their own sovereign laws. Where have we come to in the United States of America? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to pay the bills. I want to talk about Sculpt 365. Again, this is owned by a Navy veteran, a good guy. Home-owned and operated gym. He's got 3 of them. One on Callaway and Brimhall Road, one in Chester Avenue, and one up in Tehachapi on Sage Lane. They are absolutely the best gyms in town. I recommend, if you want an excellent workout on the best equipment in Kern County, you go to Sculpt 365 Fitness and check out their website. And also, for those of you seniors that you want to take a dance class, they've got one going on from 4:30 to 5:30. Then they've got some other class. I believe it's called, what does it say here? Sculpted Bodies. That's what I need to go to. But I have a class to teach tonight, so I'll be running to class after this. Sculpted Bodies from 5:30 to 6:30. And High Fitness from 6:30 to 7:30. Anyway, they've got classes for you, ladies and gentlemen, 5 days a week. Now, not all of them are the same. You'd have to check it out. Give them a call. What's their number? Let me give you their number. The Brimhall number, the gym on Brimhall, is 679-7116. 679-7116. Please check it out. And by the way, if you are working as a defense, as someone for a defense or aerospace company, you want Denice products to manufacture your hardware. You want Denice products to manufacture your hardware, and they can handle the whole thing in terms of anything that might be classified or top secret. They have that kind of facility. So they can do whatever you need to manufacture the hardware you need for your DoD company or aerospace manufacturer. You need to call Denice Products. You need to talk to the owner, another veteran, a former Marine Corps officer by the name of Scott Baker. The telephone number for Denice Products, which is located in the hub of the aerospace industry in Kern County, right there in Tehachapi. The number is 661 area code 822-6873. Again, 661-822-6873. And listen to this next commercial, and I want you to be sure and listen to it. And I want you to go to Frugati's. Is the best Italian restaurant in all of Kern County. Let's take a listen. We'll be right back after this message.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go, Frugati's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugati's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugati's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugati's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denice sent you. Salute. Bon appetito.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to call your member of Congress. And I want you to tell your member of Congress that they need to stand tall and strong. And that they should do everything they possibly can to prevent Democrats, liberal, progressive, leftists, whatever label you want to put on them, from hurting the most important strategic ally we have in all of the Middle East and Africa and Asia, as far as I'm concerned, that gives us the kind of intel, cutting-edge military technology, scientific discoveries, even the Iron Dome, which is going to help us in terms of defending our own country and people against missiles, incoming missiles and rockets into our civilian population centers. You tell them that they do not need to be using taxpayer dollars to investigate, to have the Inspector General of the United States of America investigate the United States Ambassador David Friedman, or vote a no-confidence vote against Israel's Ambassador Ron Dermer. Enough is enough. Tell the Democrats you're going to vote them out of office. I hope you're a Democrat listening to this show, and I hope you vote Republican in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Denice Scary Show. This is Denice, signing off.